is recording, and we're starting, right at 11. Okay, so the first thing to do is to approve the minutes from the last meeting, which were sent out in the email last week. So hopefully everyone had a time to look at them. Are there any additions or corrections that people found for the minutes? All right. Can I get someone make a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting? Anybody?
This is Dia. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Thank you, Dia. Can I have a second?
This is Tracy Hayes. I'll second it.
Thank you. All right, so in the manner of Zoom, we will skip the all in favor and go, does anybody oppose approving the minutes? All right, minutes are approved. And if you need to look at those, they are posted on the Sage page, as well as all the previous minutes, and the recording links are in them also. Before we get started with new business, are there any member comments or questions to be brought up today? Lisa included a link in the chat for the Midwest Collaborative course on cataloging related works and expressions that she thought looked interesting, and she wanted to share that with everybody.
Celine, this is John. I signed up for that one. I'm taking that one.
Oh, sweet. So maybe two of you will
Interesting
take
to me too.
Great. So if we get any good information from that, we'll be sure and share it at the next cataloging committee meeting. Anything else people have to add today? All right, well, we'll jump right into new business, the audience fix field. So Beth has updated the drop-down list that catalogers see in MarcEdit. And I'm going to pop up here. So this is just a record for Fable. If you go into the MarcEdit screen and right-click on the audience field, you'll see that Beth has added the age categories in here. So the intent is to try to get your item as specific as possible if the age is listed on the item. If it's not listed on the item and you use a source such as Ingram or RevieBooks, or Barnes & Noble has publisher determined age ranges, then you can use your specific, primary, pre-adolescent, adolescent. If, however, you do not know the specific age range and you cannot find it on a trusted site, do not guess. Use the J for juvenile is a little bit broader, and you can use that one. You're not using G anymore. And the F for specialized is really specialized, things like Braille, mentors. Were there any other examples we thought of on that F option?
There may be, for example, like a law library might use it for, in legal cases for that type of audience. Or I would think specialized library when I think specialized audience, but that's just me.
Beth, did you have anything to add on that for the specialized option?
No. I think I was trying to remember whether we had any more examples, and I couldn't think of any.
Okay.
Just looking at my notes real quick. But yeah, just not used very often at all.
So
and I guess I was just going to say, if it's blank, if you're bringing a record in and it's blank, I would just leave it blank. Because that's all audiences and the least specific.
And then again, to reiterate what we talked about on previous meetings, using E is just for items that have more mature or explicit content. It is not general adult. So if you have I don't know, a Debbie Macomber adult fiction book, you're gonna have a blank audience field. Are there any questions about that?
There is some cleanup needed because before we adopted this policy or kind of explain the audience level a little bit more, there are some records that are not coded correctly for this E. So I need to create a list of these records and remove the E for those that are not the mature adult explicit materials.
Thank you, Beth. Yeah, there are so many cleanup projects in the works. That's why it's important to pass off this information that you're hearing today to your fellow catalogers and make sure they hear it, just so we can get things cleaned up and move forward. The other corresponding part with this audience fixed field is that Beth has removed audience from the search features here. So now we have item type, language, literary form, video format, shelving location, and library. For people that want to search, from what we've heard from feedback, is that when people are trying to search for audiences, they're looking for broad options. And so Beth made these search features at the top of the search library. Go all the way to the top, you'll see Sage Juvenile, Easy, Young Adult, Large Print, Adult Materials, Videos Excluded. And these options are pulling information from shelving location. So that's where that's coming from. And that should help patrons and staff that are trying to look in the broader categories. Anything else before we move on to the next item? Questions people have?
Hi, this is Sarah Samuels. I just have a question, and I'm sorry if I missed it. I was a couple minutes late, but how is the audience fixed field coding being used then? I mean, I think it was a good idea to take that off of the advanced search page, but I'm just curious, like, as I'm making decisions about it too, like, at what point are we filtering or using that coding?
I know, I'm sure Beth has some more ideas here, but I know personally it does change what shows up on the children's OPAC. I had a young adult book that was coded as D, and it did not show up when I went over to our children's OPAC and searched it. So I know that's one specific example. Beth, or
okay. Okay,
yeah,
that's
it's primarily that audience field is primarily used to filter things for the kids OPAC.
Okay.
I don't know of anything else that we've really needed it for, other than what we've kind of replaced in those broader searches underneath the Sage location.
Okay. Do you know if if unspecified and general audience items show up in the kids search? Do they probably not in the kids catalogs?
I think that was one of the problems with the G, is that they were showing up in the kids, and so it's another cleanup that I'm going to have to go through, because I noticed there were some adult titles showing up in the kids OPAC, and it's like, why? And then when I went into the record, it was a G. So
I know we have some books in the kids collection that the John, our kids selector, the children's librarian, she wants in the kids collection, but they're not really kids books, they're kind of more reference books that are appropriate. And so I've tried to code those.
oh, okay.
I think I'll think about that a little. I mean, I can work with it. It doesn't, but it sounds like that might prevent them from showing up on the kids catalog, even if they have a showing location.
Yes, it
Yes,
would.
yeah.
And I don't know that it's a problem necessarily, but seeing a 300-page book in amongst the kids' titles, it's like, well, is this really kid appropriate? Because,
Yeah, it does make for big
so
age
that's a little disconcerting.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it doesn't really need to show up in the catalog per se if it's, it's more accessible from the shelf. So, okay. All right. Thank you for for answering the
Sure.
question.
Are there any other questions? All right, then. Moving on to genres, the 655s. The description of the genres, that they describe what a resource is rather than what it is about, as subject headings do. So each term in the Library of Congress genre form term consists of a single genre or form and may consist of a single word, as in cookbooks, or a phrase, as in handbooks and manuals. Terms may include parenthetical qualifiers when necessary to distinguish. So there's thrillers, motion pictures versus thrillers, radio programs. So they want broader rather than narrower terms. That's the difference between using the 650s and the 655. You're thinking broad. However, they all need to be authorized. So when you're importing a record, make sure you search the genre terms just like you would search the subject headings. And I personally find the easiest way to do that is through the id.loc.gov site. If you click on Linked Data Service and scroll down, here are your genre form terms. And let's see, what's our first one here? So I just copy and paste directly out of my record that I'm working on. Although I had a different one there. And you'll see novels is accepted. If you said, let's see, let's do comic novels. Comic novels is not an option. However, if it shows you that you could use graphic novels. So this is where you want to have everything. You want to only select the genres that are authorized. And I've imported a number recently that had unauthorized genres that I had to correct. So first thing, you import them, you see if the ones that are in the record are correct or not. Second, everything we want in the record needs to be sourced. So here are some correct examples. We have a second indicator, a 7. Your period is after your A, before the subfield 2, and it's sourced. So these are good examples here. John wanted me to mention that recently the genre Christian fiction has been included in authorities, so that is now an authorized heading for those that are wanting to use that as a search term. Here are some examples of items that are not correct. You don't want second indicator 0 because it's not sourced. You don't want a 4, it's not sourced. Of course, there are exceptions to every rule, and it's the same with our catalog. There are 2 correct exceptions that I know of. Mentors can chime in if I'm missing one. One is young adult fiction. So that one, because it is just a subject heading, it does have the second indicator 0, and there's no subfield 2. The same for large type books. These are only 2 exceptions to our sourcing rule that I am aware of. Any of the mentors have any other exceptions they can think of off the top of their head? So basically, it's just a reminder, when you import your records, check every 655 in the authorities. Make sure there's a second indicator 7. Make sure there's a 2 with the sourcing on it. Are there any questions on that?
Celine, something else you might see is a subfield 2 that says local after it, and that's not an authorized source that we want to see. So if you see that, that means that something needs to be done to that, because that's essentially an unauthorized term. Just because it has a subfield 2 doesn't necessarily mean it's an adequate source. Generally, we'll want to see, for the vast majority of the stuff we do, we'll want to see subfield 2 with LCGFT as well. Well, there are a couple other examples of other acceptable subfield 2s, but most of them will be LCGFT.
So if you import, thank you, John. If you import a record and you see local in that subfield 2, then go ahead and search the term they used. If it's not authorized, then find a different term and source it correctly. Beth, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that when they're looking at the record, maybe it's an import that they're working on. If they choose the click on the validate headings, the validate link at the top of the MARC edit, that will at least give them a start. It's not a foolproof, because maybe it's a new heading and I haven't added it to the authorities yet. I do get authority corrections and additions every month, and I send out new records for authority work. So it just kind of depends on whether there's a lapse.
So I'm going to show you what Beth is talking about here. Just in the MARC edit view, to the left of the save button is the validate. And if you click on that, down here, you'll see these little black check marks. So those are correct in our system. If it's red, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not correct. It means that it isn't in our system yet. It hasn't been added to Beth's authorities. So you would want to check this exile punishment in authorities and make sure it is correct. You'd want to do your name checks and everything. But these little black ones, you can skip those. Right, Beth?
Yes, that's right. I was just trying to save them some work. If the validate would go ahead and validate most of them for them, and then they only have to check the ones in red. So it's a starting point.
It's a great tool. I use that one a lot too. You can also just click this blue link to the right of a line and check it that way. You would need to look at individual line items. Anything else on the 655s? Questions people have? All right, well, let's move on. This is the good part of the meeting, for Beth to go through some updates on the web page, get your feedback. And Beth, is there a way for me to give you the screen? If I stop sharing, can you pick it up?
Yes.
Do I make you the presenter? You got it. Okay.
Okay, I think. Okay, do you guys see the Sage web page up on your screen now?
Yes, I
Yes.
can see it.
Okay. I have way too many tabs open, so I wanted to get the right one. So the web page is in serious need of upgrades or updates. And so let me go to the cataloging page because that's what we're looking at specifically. So wanted to kind of review what resources we currently have on the cataloging page, and some recommendations, as well as opening it up to folks to give me suggestions on what they'd like to see look different, maybe organized differently, or resources that they can't find on the page, that kind of thing. One of the recommendations I would have to catalogers is to use these resources. Go ahead and print them out and put yourself, if you don't already have a binder together, have these in a binder so that it can sit next to you while you're working. So specifically, we updated the parts terminology page. That was updated in August of 2021. So that's one that you'll want to make sure that you print out and update your resources if you haven't looked at that one recently. I'm trying to think of other things. All of these are just good resources. If you click on the More Resources page, that was just a link to additional content. Maybe not as, I'm just trying to think of additional resources, but we're not featuring them as much because maybe you already have utilized these in the past. But this is another page I'd like to update as well to make sure that we have all the resources on there that we want and links to various helpful pages. I can click on back. Celine, was there other stuff that you wanted me to cover?
We had a couple things specifically. The parts cheat sheet was updated, punctuation and matching guidelines were 3.
Yes. So the punctuation cheat sheet was in April of 2020, but it is a very helpful resource. The standards for matching database records, we show a 2015 document. There was some discussion at our recent mentor meeting that we actually had some changes in 2019 to this document, but they were never, I think, officially put in a new document. And so that's something that we're going to be looking at. And I think that there weren't any real changes to it. I think it was mainly a clarification of certain things. And one of the things that was brought up was pagination. I can bring that document up. So in this version, if you see numbers that are very close and all other criteria match, you should assume you have a match. If numbers vary by more than a few, you probably don't have a match. In the 2019 cataloging committee meeting, there was a reference to, I think, up to 10 pages. And so we just need to iron or tie that down and make sure that what we really want to be happening is in this document. So that's something we're going to be working on. Does that address your question, Celine?
Yes, that, and then the main spot for people to go to check on series guidelines. I wanted them to see that part too.
Okay. There's the SAGE series guidelines. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay. Also a very useful document and quite thorough. Let's bring that up. Okay. Table of contents. Talks about traced versus untraced series. What we're finding in some incoming records is folks that are not tracing the series, but in most cases we want to. So keep an eye out for that in the records to make sure that you change that to a 1 to trace them. And if it doesn't have the 800 or the corresponding 830, go ahead and add those. But here's documentation on how to add a series, what the format is. Here's the formatting notes. Another good thing to have right by your desk or right by your computer so that if you forget, it's right there.
Beth, did we, I believe we had some training videos back when this document was put together. Am I remembering correctly?
You are? Yes.
That I think are still on the YouTube channel. So if you're going through this and need some additional clarifications, you might want to check that out and see if you can find those.
Yeah, and I actually think that there's links to those on the cataloging page. When we go back to that, let's check because I think we added them as a link out. So yeah, please take a look at this document, print it out if you don't already have it printed out so that you can use it as a reference and a resource. The special case and series, yeah, things can get complex. So if you ever have a question about a particular series that's a little wonky, please send a message out to the listserv, contact your mentor. So they can put our heads together and figure out what to do.
And Beth, can you find the spot where it talks about checking the authorities for the series names?
I don't remember the table of contents and where that was.
This is a pretty big document, but it has wonderful samples and examples. So you can look at just those as you're going through as a reminder. Somewhere in this document, it walks you through how to check the authorities because the series names are also, we need to have those in the authorities. You can't necessarily use what is on the
Okay.
in 800.
Okay, here it is. It's at the end. So here's the primary sources for retrieving series information. Library of Congress does authorize some series, but not all series. I haven't quite figured out why. I mean, the Library of Congress at one point in history said, we're not going to authorize series anymore. But then they kept doing it for some of them. So that's why we have more than one source as outlined here. And then it goes into graphic and manga. This is, we also, I know, put a video together kind of going through this process with the links in question. So there's a video tutorial out there as well.
And then one more thing on the series is that I like to do after I've cataloged one is I go into OPAC and I click the series link and I see if it works. And then that's usually where I find that, oh, somehow book 2 wasn't included. And you can kind of fix those as you go. So it's just one of the things that I find most useful for helping patrons is if the series information is working correctly, it makes life so much easier.
That's for sure. Let me see if I can. We have a form on the cataloging webpage that allows folks to let us know if they've come across a problem with the series. It's a series problem form. Let's see. There it is, right up there at the top. So you could click on that and go ahead and fill out the relevant information. And then that gives us a starting point so that we can address a series that's not being handled correctly in the system, or maybe it's a series that just needs a lot of cleanup because maybe at the beginning nobody knew it was going to be a series and then it turned into a series. So there's titles in the series that need to be updated. That kind of thing would work as well.
This is Lori. And I just wanted to say it's important how you word your series title in the 800 field, because that's what allows them to group together. So you don't add words like mysteries or series at the end of it unless it really is listed that way, either in the LOC authority and then also check on SAGE. And as we go through them, we try to clean those up and make sure they're worded identically. So as you move on with adding series, as publishers release their Mary series successes, make sure you word it the same way if you could, please.
Has anybody had questions and they've gone to the cataloging site and they haven't been able to find the information they're looking for? Are there any things that we need to bring to the forefront to help you?
If you think of things later, just reach out to us and let us know, because we really do want to get this site updated and user-friendly.
The left-hand white box is where I often go. Besides the items that Beth just went over, those marked cheat sheets are fantastic. The 999 list is there. It's updated. The parts you really recommend referring to that as you get ready to do your next set of DVDs, because it is updated and there are some very specific ways that we're trying to get the episodes and discs listed to make searching efficient and easy for the patrons and the staff. But that left-hand box is often where I go. And then, of course, your mentors are on the right there. So if you have any questions about anything, you can just email those people. And they've been very helpful and friendly, eager for any questions. The cataloging minutes is in that center column. And John does the minutes, and they're very detailed. So if you don't have time to listen to the recording, or if you're trying to relay some information to your fellow staff, you're like, yeah, they talked about the parts thing, and I don't know, it's go to the cataloging committee minutes, and everything is laid out very specifically there, and you can quickly refer to it. It's a great resource.
You can also use the search box up in the top right-hand corner with specific information you're looking for. A lot of that information that returns will be actually from the cataloging minutes. But sometimes that's helpful anyway because it explains why we have a certain set of directions for doing things.
So as you start to use this site more, like Beth said, please let us know if there are pieces you're missing, things that you find are difficult to find, ways to reorganize. It's all in the process of being updated right now. So those were the main things on our agenda today. Is there anything people that they've thought of during the meeting that they have a question about? You want to bring up? There's a great turnout today, 20 people. I think that's more than we've had for a while, which is fantastic. As for these meetings are really for you, also for all of the catalogers out there. So it's a way for the mentor committee to relay information on updates, but it's also a way for the catalogers to ask their questions. So if you want something added to the agenda, or you want the mentors to discuss it beforehand, anything like that, just email anybody in that cataloging mentor list, and we will get those questions discussed and added to the agenda. This is really just a resource for you.
I think these meetings have been very helpful, and I appreciate you going over the Sage System website.
Great. Well, then getting this information out to all the people you know that are cataloging and didn't have time to attend, that would be the next step. I know we've started going over a few of the new cataloging updates during our staff meeting, because I'm at the meeting, and that way I can relay it to the other staff that don't have time to attend the meeting. So please feel like that's the next step, to just keep getting the word out. Over the course of this next year, we're going to have more changes and updates with RDA, and we just want to really keep the lines of communication open with everybody. Beth has updated at that center. If you could scroll down, Beth, the center column under the cataloging, you'll see the catalog. There's a cataloging listserv link that you need to be added to that. You can click on there. And then there are cataloging contacts. So make sure you're on that list. I know Beth has just updated it, but if just double check, make sure you're there, and then you'll be getting all the information you need. Is there anything else? All right, we're also trying to keep these meetings as short and efficient as possible to let everybody get out to the rest of their day. So we will go ahead then and end the meeting. The next meeting will be on Monday, December 6th. Same time, 11 o'clock. Pacific time. These meetings are held every other month on even numbered months. So you can go ahead and add those to your calendar. There'll always be that same time slot. And I'm sending the links out the week prior. So you can watch for those links and then again, pass that information off to anyone else you think in your library might need it. So thank you everybody for coming today and happy Monday. And we'll see you in December.
Thank you, Celine and Beth
Thank you.
and John.
Thank you.
Take care,
Have a
everybody.
good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.